So, according to Hollywood Reporter Mark Bernardin, he blames fans for the reason why Star Wars is failing. And what I see is social justice is killing movies. Other studios and platforms tried this in the past where they caved to social justice warriors, and they're all about inclusivity and LGBTQ. But then the fans don't show up to actually buy the goods, and then the whole project was a waste of time and money. Social justice does not sell. It's all about virtue signaling. And we need to wake up and we need to save Star Wars because I enjoyed it as a kid. And George Lucas made a terrible, terrible new trilogy. I forgot what year that was, early 2000s ish. And then we had the newer ones, Rogue One, and then The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, and those were just terrible, terrible movies. I'm not even going to see Solo, but maybe Trump needs to get involved and actually make Star Wars great again because it's going to kill the franchise. The only thing I'm looking forward to is the Boba Fett movie, but I really do not want them to ruin Boba Fett because I will stop loving him as a character. What do you two think about social justice killing movies and especially the Star Wars franchise?
You go first.
All right. Personally, I'm getting so tired of it. And it's not just the Star Wars franchise that's been ruined. I have two roommates with me. One is a huge Star Wars nerd, and both of them, including myself, huge comic nerds. Like we love this kind of stuff. And what we've been seeing a lot of lately is that a lot of our characters, a lot of the stories we grew up with, are being irreversibly changed into just not even good characters, just to appease the LGBTQ communities. And you even saw it with the Black Panther movie. Out here, I tried to go watch it when it first came out. I was told I was not welcome in that theater. Like,
What?
yeah, like this, and I'm quoting here, this is for black people only, get out. And I was like, what? Like, this is one of my favorite characters as a kid. Like, why am I not okay to be in here?
So you couldn't go to the movies?
Yeah, I mean, I stayed and watched anyway. Like, no one's going to tell me I can't watch Black Panther.
Okay.
But no, it was interesting to kind of see that firsthand. But you hear stories about that kind of stuff all the time, where a character has to be modeled a certain way to appease the LGBTQ community, or else it just gets crap ratings when it's finished being made. What was the new movie that just came out where Ben Shapiro talked about it the other day? It was a terrible, terrible movie, but because it was all females and minorities, when they did the reviews on it, they tried so damn hard not to give it a negative review and still said it sucked.
Ocean's 8?
Yes, Ocean's 8. The movie is so terrible. It's garbage.
What is it?
Ocean's 8.
You saw it?
Not the whole thing. The last three that they did, I have loved since they came out.
Yeah.
As soon as I started seeing stuff about Ocean's 8, the whole premises was screwed. And when they came out and talked about it and they did the reviews on the movie, they used words like how prideful it was to see a community come together and so on and so forth. But then at the end of it, they would say something like, but kind of sparked out without too much life, or was a little too fluff. And that's all it was. Like, and it was just a terrible movie. But you see that all the time. Bad movies getting good reviews, hell, getting Oscars, getting nominations over some of the best movies we've seen probably in the last 10 or 15 years. So that's my take on it. And it's ruining the movie industry.
You know, I didn't enjoy Black Panther. I just saw Black Panther like maybe 2 weeks ago on DVD. I just watched it because, you know, I want to see what the fuss was about. And I was disappointed, man. I was like, yo, this movie wasn't that good. The Star Wars, I know Star Wars is cult like, but my issue is this, right? So when I go to movies, I want to go see a good movie. I don't care about all this race shit and politics. I just want to see a good ass movie. You know what I'm saying? What's the storyline? What's the plot? I felt like with the Solo movie, I didn't know what the movie was about. Every time I saw a trailer, it was just like, look, Donald Glover is playing um what's Billy D's role again?
Orlando.
Lando. Thank you. He's playing
Lando
Lando.
Calrissian.
It was just like, all right, so Charles Gambino is playing Lando. All right, so what's the movie about?
And he's pansexual too, apparently.
He was what?
There was reports before Solo comes out that Lando is pansexual.
Yeah, I did see something like that, and I'm just like, yo, like, so what is this, like a pansexual sex scene we should be prepared for in the movie? Like, why is this pertinent to the plot? I don't know, man. I was. If I'm not compelled from the trailer, I'm not going to see the movie.
Yeah, they really messed up the trailer from the beginning, and right before I had any negative feelings about that movie with the SJW agenda, I'm like, this looks terrible. Even in the first trailer, you barely see Han Solo. It's mostly about Lando. Are they trying to push something there too? I mean, Han is the star. It should be about him.
The thing is, black people, waste more money on disposable goods, disposable experiences. Um, so I think that Hollywood and TV is trying to exploit that. I think other cultures are more frugal with their money and less likely to spend on entertainment. If you go look at the Nielsen, I don't know what the numbers are, but if you go look at Nielsen reporting, you'd see that African Americans are more likely to spend on entertainment than anybody else. So I think that's kind of what they're catering to, but it's just like you still got to realize that there's other people that want to see these movies, so you have to still make them good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it complements matters even further is when you get actors who come out and honestly say their political stances, and then they never find work again, if they don't agree with the liberal point of view. Like there was two recently. One of them was actually supposed to be in the Han Solo movie, and she got told no because you're a Republican. Like it wasn't come out directly and said that, but that's the gist that the reporting crew got when they interviewed her for why she got denied for Han Solo. And but you've been seeing a lot of that in the last couple of years.
Yeah, like I said earlier, pop culture is liberal, man.
Mm-hmm. Hotep, we just got a great question for you, and I wanted to ask you this also. Does Hotep have an opinion on "This Is America" video?
I didn't get it. Like I got it from everybody else's POV. Like, oh, it's like supposed to be like woke, but to Hotep, that ain't woke. That's like just barely getting up.
Yeah.
It's like barely scratching the surface of what woke should mean. Video kind of put me to sleep. I think the performance and the direction and the production, I would give a 5 out of 5, right? So the performers in that video, Childish Gambino in the video, 5 out of 5. Costume design, like I said, the production, the direction, all of the filmography, great. The concept, great. But how people blew it up, I'm just like, y'all thought it was that great? Like they thought it was like mind blowing, and I'm like, nah, I just thought it was just a good video. But everybody tried to make it seem like it was like so woke and so conscious. I'm just like, I wouldn't call it conscious. I call it entertaining. I wouldn't call it conscious though. It's like very surface level consciousness. So like, if you're not conscious, you thought that was conscious.
The video was good, good choreography. I love Donald Glover, but I don't think I like him anymore after this video.
Why?
Because I found the video to be very anti-America. I mean, if you go by the video alone, right? But the song itself also lacks really any depth to what the video is trying to say, I thought. I mean, in the video, they don't. Is it really talking about killing everybody? It seemed like a completely different story listening to the song.
I thought it was an accurate depiction of America. You know, I think that everybody tries to, you know, you either try to paint America as this horrible place or you try to paint it as paradise. And the truth is somewhere in the middle. But no matter where you sit there, on both POVs are accurate. In some ways, America's a war zone. In some ways, America's a paradise. It depends on where you are and what time it is. So, you know, for black people in a certain neighborhood at a certain time, shit ain't sweet. You know? Um, is there a police issue? Absolutely is a police issue. There's this movie called The Experiment. It's based upon a book. You guys ever seen that with Forrest Whitaker?
Mm-mm.
You should check it out. It's a really good book. It's called The Experiment. I'm not sure if it's based on a true story or not, but basically what happens is they take a bunch of guys. I think it's like 8 apiece, and one set of guys pretend to be prisoners, and the other set of guys pretend to be correctional officers, COs, right? And basically they just have to go a certain amount of days, and then they get let out, and everybody gets paid. Make a long story short, they start fighting. People die, all types of shit. But it was just normal people. The problem is they had to really act like they were in prison, so there were certain periods of lockdown. The guys playing the prisoners had to listen to the other guys about what time it was time to eat, where to sit, all that type of stuff. So the issue is the way police are qualified. I'm not going to say trained. The way police are qualified is broken. You know, like anybody can be a cop. You know, you got some people that don't got 2 balls can go be a cop. And I think if you don't have balls, you shouldn't be given a gun. I think that the way we qualify people needs to be revamped. You know, I think you might have to take a man and throw him in an alligator pit with 2 alligators and see if he gets out. If he gets out, he's qualified to be a cop. You know, because you know, like the other day, I saw a video of a girl on the beach, and cop starts whooping her ass. I don't know if you guys saw that. Here in Jersey, she's basically drinking alcohol on the beach, and he's like manhandling her. So then some people say, hey, you know, she pushed him, and then, you know, so that's basically assault on the police officer, blah, 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 blah. And I kind of get that, but I feel like a man would know how to handle a woman in such a way that it wouldn't escalate it to that point. You know, I think police aren't even trained on psychology and persuasion. You know, the approach of people. It's more like you know, I'm the authority and you're my bitch. You know, even when they come up to you at the window when they pull you over, it's just like, here's this guy in a position of authority over you, and it's not 2 people. They're just constables protecting property. So I think that the way they qualify these people should change. But it is accurate. The police system is screwed up, man. You let any idiot have a gun. So, you know, a lot of times people say it's racism, da da da, and I'm like, yo, I guarantee you that at least 60 to 70% of the killings are because the cop was afraid of was scared for his life. That's what I think a lot of these shootings come down to. Because when you look at in the hood, a lot of times people shoot other people just because they're scared, they're afraid. You know, people that aren't afraid, they're gonna knuckle up. They're gonna say, you know, let's fight this out, you know, hand to hand. People that pull the gun out, they're scared. So that's why I said we got to start qualifying these people better.
Yeah, that's very true. You can't just have regular people going out there and they don't know how to react in those difficult situations. I see a bunch of crazy people riding public transportation all the time, and I can't even imagine how I would react in that situation.
Yeah. And these people got moods too, man. You know, like your wife was arguing with you this morning, you know, all that stuff plays a role. So by the time you get into work, you got a bad attitude, and then you pull somebody over, they give you attitude. It's like, you know what, I'm just going to hit you over the head with my baton and get this over. I ain't got time for this shit, you know? So that's why I said is there needs to be some sort of psychological analysis even before they take the streets every day. You know, these guys might need therapy. Should be a therapist to speak to for these guys. There's a lot that goes into being a cop, and I think those issues aren't being addressed.
I mean, they could. I don't know if they do this now, but police should definitely have some kind of angry, um, crazy person training where cops will act overly aggressive and they need to respond accordingly in that situation. So it's when they deal with aggressive people in the field that it won't be something new to them. And I
Yeah,
really hope they are doing it now. I don't know if you guys know any other any cops out there, but hopefully that's something they're doing.
I think. I mean, I think every cop should have a psychology degree, man. They should be rigorously trained in psychology because you're dealing with people.
Yes, people suck.
Yeah, you know, you have to know signs of aggression before they're manifested. You know,
Hmm.
so you can uh, take preemptive action.
And there's actually another aspect to this as well. You see it in a lot of high stress situations where you make a mistake and there's no way to take that back without having repercussions on yourself. To avoid those, you simply just go with that mistake and hope that it works out in the end. And actually, short, funny story on my end from that. There was a MP who pulled me over on base when I was still active duty. MP is a military police officer, and he had accused my car. He had accused me of not stopping at a stop sign, and the way he explained it was that my front tires stopped, my back tires did not, and it was because he realized that there was no way for him to not have this confrontation after pulling me over, and so he tried to think of some way to make sense of why he would give me a ticket, and I asked him repeatedly 3 times. I even asked him if I was in a cartoon. Like, is this a cartoon right now? Am I a cartoon? Am I Snoopy Dog right here? Like, just driving the big long car that stretches back and forth like an accordion?
Yeah.
But he stuck with his guns. He was like, no, your front wheels stopped. Your back wheels did not stop. It just, mine was blown. But and unfortunately, that happens in a lot of high stress situations, including when they're in combat or if they're chasing a suspect or anything that could be dangerous to their lives. That once you've started an action, you can't stop because the repercussions could cost you your life. And in reverse of that, it could cost you your job.
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh yeah. Valid point.
and don't get me wrong, I am not giving them an excuse for that. In the military, we get trained extensively for reacting to stuff like that. But even for us, sometimes it fails. So,
Yeah.
And in the military, we're taught when you point your weapon at someone, there's no shooting them in the leg or anything. It's shoot to kill.
Right.
I don't know if the police are held to the same standards, just whipping out and waving their gun at people, but
My
the
friend,
videos. Go ahead.
my friend's dad is a cop, and he said they're taught to empty the clip. You know, if you fire the first round, you're taught to empty the clip. There's no like double tap to the chest. You know.
yeah, you continue to fire until the threat has been stopped, not
Yeah.
slowed down or put on the ground. But once it's stopped, that's when you stop firing.
Yeah.
So,
That's overly excessive and terrible. I hope that's not
yes.
standards for police departments all across the country. Maybe you guys know more about that than me. But what happened in Sacramento recently was very terrible, and that could have been avoided. He could have been alive today.
What happened in Sacramento?
Cody, you want
There
to take this?
was there was an individual who was a suspect of vandalism on, I guess, multiple vehicles and some windows and stuff. And the police were trying to chase him down, and he was told to stop several times. He ended up turning a corner behind a house, and he had a cell phone in his hand. And I guess he was trying to call somebody. And when the police caught up to him, as soon as they rounded the corner, they opened fire without checking, without trying to slow down and take a minute and de-escalate the situation. So they're under investigation for doing this, but they fired over 20 rounds. and it was at the teenager who was a suspect. He wasn't an adult yet, with no weapon, only a cell phone. So
I don't know, man. It's a sticky situation, you know. I sometimes I'm on the cop side in those situations because you only got a few seconds to think, and it's your life or theirs, you know. So what if he does have a gun, and I took that extra second to think? That's my life now. It's like either me or you, and I ain't choosing me.
But two clips in that poor man, that's overly excessive.
I agree, but if that's protocol,
I mean, once the bullets stop flying, your adrenaline kicks so high, and I've been there, and there is no thinking. There's only, if I don't do something right now, I'm going to die. Like
yeah,
that's the only thought that goes through your head.
yeah.
And I can't speak for these police officers, but I mean, if I was chasing somebody I assumed to be armed or dangerous, and I rounded a corner and saw something in their hands facing me, and I'm not sure I would have been able to de-escalate the situation. So, and it's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate realization, but the worst part is, no matter what happens from this point on, whether those police officers are convicted or cleared, they're going to have a bad name for the rest of their lives.
Have you?
So,
I mean, I've played Tom Clancy, right? So
yeah.
this is how you have. This is poor police training, because when you square a corner, you're supposed to know what's around that corner before you square it. And so, if he did take that corner and he was caught off guard, yeah, that was just poor police work. You know what I'm saying? When I square a corner, I'm, you know, you got to pick your head real quick and look. You know what I'm saying? Or have somebody flank around the other side. You don't just turn a corner, because he could have died. The police officer could have died. That's why he panicked, because he turned the corner wrong. You're supposed to take a wide approach around the corner so you get more visual. But so you know what I mean? So you don't come under fire. It's just poor police training. What is Seattle like? When was the last time they had some action, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've actually got a really good point with that, because I actually watched through the body cam video and the aerial video, because they had a heat camera on a helicopter following these guys, and that's almost exactly what happened. Instead of actually stopping, checking the corner, and then coming through, they were at a sprint trying to chase this guy down, and they turned the corner, and it's dark. They have their flashlights on their firearm, and as soon as they saw something in this guy's hand, they just opened up.
See what I'm saying? I never saw the footage. And see how I knew that? It's poor police training, man.
Yep.
Wow. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to our next story that could affect us all. Hopefully it won't be the end of the world, but it's about Kim Jong-un.
Oh, Korea.
Rocket Man.
Yeah. So, Korea. Trump has a meeting, or had a meeting with Kim Jong-un in Singapore with Dennis Rodman. We all love him. He's been going there for years, and he's great friends with Kim Jong-un. When I first heard about Rodman going to see Kim Jong-un in Korea, I was very, I don't know what to think. But I was kind of happy because someone's going across the pond in a terrible country and trying to show him American life and show him who we really are. Because when governments talk to each other, it wasn't good back then. They both paint each other as the enemy. No conflict is ever going to be resolved. Do you think any past U.S. presidents could get this far with North Korea, or could it only be Trump?
I don't know, man. You heard what Rodman said. He said he tried to talk to Obama. Obama played him. You know,
That's right.
You know, Dennis Rodman is. I want to be nice here, but he's different. You know what I'm saying? He's probably a lot to handle. But I think that who you give a voice to, whether they're a lot to handle or not, says a lot about your humility, uh, and who you are as a person. So there's a lot of people that may seem strange or hard to deal with. I think of that as dealing with them. I think of that as a test of my character. So I think it says a lot about Obama's character that he didn't want to give, what's name any time of day, Dennis Rodman
Yeah.
any time of day. And then, some people are pulling up some old tweets from Trump saying something about Dennis Rodman and making fun of Dennis Rodman for going to Korea or something like that, or talking to him about Korea. And I'm like, well, just last year, him and Kim Jong Un were basically, ready to go into the boxing ring, you know. But here we are. So I think that we got to stop like trying to pull up the past and like looking at what's happening right now. What's happening right now is pretty funny. It's pretty hilarious that Dennis Rodman is creating peace between two nations
Yeah. Oh,
when Obama had the chance to.
to elaborate more on that, Rodman was recently in a CNN interview, and Kim basically offered President Obama the exact same plan that he offered Trump. And
Yeah,
Obama, like you said, just ignored it. But Trump listened. He took the same plan. They're executing it now.
yeah.
Some details about that plan. North Korean leader pledges to destroy major missile test site. U.S. will stop joint military exercises with South Korea. Kim accepted his invitation to visit the White House at the appropriate time. That would be a very historic moment as well. They signed a document on Tuesday stating that they would work towards complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. The remains of the U.S. prisoners of war, which they've been trying to do for a long time, would be returned to the families. So Trump is someone who's getting things done. And Cody, do you think any previous president could accomplish what Trump has accomplished this week?
Not in recent history, no. I've been hesitant to say this just because of the differences between them, but Trump actually reminds me a lot of our first generation presidents, all the way going back like before Hoover, in the way that he speaks and the robust tone he uses. The language he uses is simple, straightforward, and most of the time a little gritty. But being able to stand up and speak like that and not be passive and not be, well, for lack of a better term, an ass kisser, is something that helped make this happen. Um, Unfortunately, I don't think any of our presidents in recent history would have been able to pull it off and then actually make progress with it. And granted, we've yet to see whether or not anything's going to come out of this. And personally, I don't like how he's been treating Kim Jong Un politely and more as a friend and an ally than a dictator for the last 100 years. But I can see why he's doing it. You can't really insult a man and then expect him to show up and be friendly with you. You have to be at least polite, just not an ass kisser. But I think it's his grittiness.
What's the issue with Kim Jong Un? Because I'm not opposed to dictatorship.
He's been trying to race for nuclear arms for quite a while now.
I mean, that's fine. He should be able to. What does he do to his own people? Like, is he like mean to his own people? Like, how does
He
that work?
murdered many of his own people.
For what?
It's like his dad. I didn't really see the details for that, but his country is starving. He's been murdering a bunch of people. Very oppressive regime.
The people that live in North Korea literally see him as a god. And there's actually one escapee from North Korea, and yeah, literally an escapee that when she was brought onto the news and asked, what did she realize and what made her escape, her and I'm got the quote here. It's hard to realize that you're slaves when you're taught that your oppressor is a god. We didn't even think we were enslaved, but we are slaves in North Korea. And that's from the mouth of the woman who literally had to escape over gunfire and landmines to get out of a country. That in itself is kind of a no-no. It's isolationist to an extreme, and then seeing your regime as gods, and that's how they run their country. So
Yeah, I have to
and
do some more research on North Korea. It doesn't sound like a bad place to me so far.
So lately, they've been
Um,
very aggressive with their actions near China and Japan. They've actually launched missiles over Japan, which is one of the reasons they said, "Okay, we're backing off. We're not helping anymore." North Korea, but they're doing tests, and they have been active and vocal in their threats against America, South Korea, and several other countries as well.
And they're not doing anything the U.S. doesn't do.
True.
but the thing with North Korea is that they're a terrible dictatorship, and they can actually become crazy one day and actually bomb other countries or even us. A lot of other countries are a little bit more stable than the leaders in North Korea, so that's why I think we're more alarmed when it comes to them having nuclear weapons. And
I think the term dictator takes a unwarranted what's the word I'm looking for? I think it's unfairly judged. It gets a bad rap. Again, I like dictatorships. I wish I could be dictator because I don't believe that you can have 100 people sit in this thing called Congress and run a nation. It's just too many cooks in the kitchen. And you know what I'm saying? I think that power needs to be centralized, and whoever is that leader has to be trusted. I think that he has to be for the culture and for the people. And I think that there are ways to make sure that happens, make sure you appoint the right people as dictator. Um, but I don't think that being a dictator is necessarily a bad thing.
but what if a dictator becomes a dick? Sorry, my French. Then your whole country is at risk. Your freedom, your liberty, and our society now, and how our government's set up. We do have checks and balances. The president has very limited power, except with executive orders, and people are able to elect and change their government.
Yeah, you hang them in town square and beat them with stones, right? That's
Well, and interestingly enough, the way that you're talking about this, it actually sounds like you're leaning more towards an autocracy than a dictatorship. And the main difference being that in a dictatorship, the position of power is not an elected position. It's more like what you would think with dynasties, with kings and queens, where it's handed down through direct lineage, and nobody gets a say in what happens in a dictatorship.
yeah. So that's why I don't believe in the lineage thing. I think that I kind of like how they did in the Wakanda. Like you got to fight this thing out, and if you win the fight, like you get to be dictator, And then anytime somebody wants to challenge you, they can. I kind of like that a little bit, but I think that shouldn't be the only determining factor. I think it should be like 3 different rounds, but one of them should be like your loyalty to the people. Like, are you doing what's in the interest of the people? And if you're not, there should be like this thing attached to your heart where we can just press the button and it's the end of you, or you should be just arrested and thrown in jail for not looking out for the people. But again, I think that there is something that has to be created. And I've thought about this a lot, but there's certain ways to prove a person is fit to be a leader. There are certain things that they'd have to go through or demonstrate throughout their life that would make them a good leader. If you watch Naruto, in Naruto, you got Naruto and Sasuke and Sakura, and they're training to be ninja. And nobody has passed the ninja test under Kakashi. They were the first ones to pass the test. And the test was, he told them, do not share your food with the loser of the last round. And they shared their food with the loser of the last round, which is their teammate, and they passed the test. He said, that's what this is about, looking out for each other. So I think that people have to be tested in ways when they don't know they're being tested to show what that person's character is. And then there has to be like mitigated risk of bribery and things like that, because somebody could be bought and changed through money. So I think that there are things that need to happen throughout the year where, the dictator might need to come party with everybody, you know, or whatever, and come down and be with the people. He might be required to do community service. You know, it's like certain things that can be put together to make sure that you have the right person there. And if he's not, then we can just take him out and replace him with somebody else who passed the test.
Yeah. I understand how you feel about dictatorships. I mean, as a full-time single parent, that kind of leadership style works for me. Clean your up now, you know. I mean, it's fine, but when you start applying everybody's lives in the country, I mean, that's when I think that it's going to be really open to abuse and, you know, possible enslavement and losing of our rights. Because
yeah, I don't, and that's the thing. I don't view dictators as you do this and you do that. That's not how I view a dictatorship. Dictatorship just means a centralized power behind one person, right? Mm-hmm. The evil part is subjective. You know, when I raise my kids, I don't raise my kids, like I said before, as a dictator. You know, you have the option of not cleaning up this mess, but it's going to come with consequences. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, I'm very mindful of the tone in which I speak to my kids. I don't speak to them, you know, from a place of, you know, like anger or resentment or animosity. You know, it's always like, yo, can you please clean that up? But I speak to them as if it was a roommate or if it was a friend. And I like, can you please clean the table? It's just a little messy. You know, that's how I kind of speak to the kids. Mm-hmm. So they feel like, you know, we're one and the same and not I'm above them. And I think that a dictator could be the same way. Look at Muammar Gaddafi. He was a dictator and there was zero unemployment in Libya. I mean, the place was beautiful, zero unemployment. As a matter of fact, the people of the nation could go to the bank, and I think it was either weekly or monthly withdrawals that was given to them from the government based upon the natural resources under the ground. Water was everywhere. Food was in abundance. There's not a single person that was hungry. As a matter of fact, Muammar Gaddafi said if he found you, if you get married, they give you a house. You know what I'm saying? If he found you begging for food, I'd throw you in jail because you're embarrassing me. Like, that's a good dictator. Mm-hmm. But, you know, of course, the media created all these lies and whatnot, and then Obama bombed them, and that was that.
Yep. Good old media. For our next story, I'm going to have to take a sip of my leftist tears because this one's going to hurt a lot. Stand by. They're delicious.
Somebody said the Koreans aren't even allowed to drive.
Our next story is about Robert De Niro receiving a standing ovation at the Tonys for saying F Trump, F Trump, F Trump. That's how you become popular these days.
Yeah, that's you know what was funny to me? Like after he said it, he like put his hands up like he won. There it is.
Yeah. If this is not evidence of Hollywood's far left bias that controls our culture, I mean, I don't know what is. Are regular people awakening to this type of behavior?
I don't know, man. This is, when I saw that, I was like, what is this? This is like, he said it as if he said something revolutionary. And I'm like, fuck, Trump is revolutionary now? Like, that's like damn, like people look back at history like 20 years from now, 30 years from now, they're really going to think Trump was like this evil guy because of all these events. And I'm just like, wow, this is funny.
Red states will write their textbooks the proper way. But the problem is most schools get their textbooks from California, so you might be right.
Well, hopefully that country will just kind of, or that state will kind of just break off and just float into the ocean somewhere. So
definitely possible. Sitting on the fault line. It's definitely possible.
No,
I mean, go ahead.
Go ahead. It's unfortunate that you see more and more stuff like that every day. I mean, how long ago was it that we saw a comedian get awarded and applauded and told that she was so brave because she held Trump's severed head on a plate? I mean, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that would immediately got you arrested by the friggin' FBI and investigated to find out that if you were linked to terrorism. Because you do something like that, they have to ask questions. You know, you have an actress that comes up and says that she would bomb the White House if she got a chance, and that she implored people to bomb the White House.
Madonna.
And yeah, and was still paraded as a hero for it. So what changed? Like how do we separate the love of a president or our dislike or hatred of a president to hatred of a country? And it's just it's lost that that distinction, and it's become a single narrative that the whole country is bad and Trump's at fault for it. So it's just getting old real fast, in my opinion.
It's scary. It's really scary because, like you said, ordinarily you'd have to be investigated by the FBI, but the rules or the goalposts have been moved for them. So now it's okay to attack the president, which tells me that there's somebody else at play here. There's somebody else that's pulling some strings. Somebody else that's controlling things, and it's definitely tied to the media.
Is it George Soros? I love Alex Jones. I mean, he can be very informative, but I really don't know if George Soros is really this bad of a guy that the right media really makes him out to be.
I mean, just like anything else, it's up to personal opinion. It's still kind of sad to see, like I said, the extreme polarization one way or the other. And Alex Jones included, he tends to be more comedic with his approach, whether he's saying that he likes somebody or saying that he dislikes somebody. But it just can we just have like this discussion right here? How come we can't see this on a national level, where even if two people disagree or there's a set of misinformation or however it be, we have a simple, benign conversation, because that's what people are supposed to do. Why does it always have to end up in violence now? Whether it's comedic violence or literal riots in the street, burning down buildings and pissing on Trump Tower, which is something I saw happen recently. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that we can ever get back to a point where both sides of the aisle can have a civil discussion and not see so much hatred for one another anymore?
If the left wants to have a conversation like some adults, but they don't, so it's just like, oh, this is what I believe. You're evil. It's just like, well, can we talk about this? No, you're evil. It's just like, all right, fuck it, I'm evil.
Yeah. A good example is what just happened in this live stream. Hotep, I didn't agree with what you said about dictatorships, but it was nice to hear your view, and I'm going to be polite, and you were polite, and that's how it should be. I mean, at the end of the day, we go home and we believe what we want to believe. What's the point? It's important that we have that dialogue and we listen to each other.
Yeah, exactly. There's this dope article on Zero Hedge, how Soros single-handedly created the European refugee crisis. And there's some interesting things in there. Soros is a very interesting guy. I think that's the article I was looking for, but there's an article on Zero Hedge that kind of shows how George Soros invests his money in certain places to change the political and economic environment. So when we look at Black Lives Matter, we know Black Lives Matter was funded by George Soros through Open Society. When you look at GLAAD and a lot of these LGBT movements, you'll see ties to a Soros organization. When you look at Hillary Clinton, her daughter got married in a Soros-owned home. So there are ties to Soros, to the evils.
The globalists are taking over. Soros.
I think that Soros is probably one of the scapegoats. I don't think I think he's probably on a lower rung, right? So I think there's people that are above him that we don't know about. Names are never disclosed. Names are never published online. That hide in the shadows, that have way more control. You know, like when we look at the Federal Reserve, we have no idea who runs that place. We have no idea how it runs. You know, we don't know who's appointed who. So for example, like they have this video of missing money on YouTube. It's like missing money from the Federal Reserve, and they asked Ben Bernanke where like $2 trillion went, and he goes, "I can't tell you that." And it's like, yo, that's my money. What you mean you can't tell me what I did with my money? You know? So he's like, well, who'd the money get invested with? I can't tell you that. What? You can't tell me who you gave my money to? It's just like, oh, the fuck on, you know?
It's my money and I want it now.
You know? So I think that anybody who wants to have a conversation about what's going on in this world, if they don't want to talk about the media and the Federal Reserve, they're just blowing smoke.
Yeah.
I mean, not to go Illuminati on this or anything, but there is a small conspiracy that's starting. You guys have both heard of the Rothschilds, I assume.
Oh, of course.
So, for you, Philip, the Rothschilds are okay. So you did. All right.
No,
I
no,
thought
no,
you
no.
said.
Thank you. I'm inclined to learn.
Oh, in short overview, they are what made the banks. They are all of the banks. They control most of the money in all of the countries behind the scenes, and they're responsible for a lot of the power plays that we see. But there's this whole conspiracy of their lineage thing. And I was going to make the joke that maybe Soros isn't one of the Rothschilds, but maybe he works for the Rothschilds. He's just not very good at his job because he's out in the open now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, somebody has to take the public blame. You know, somebody has to be the face. You know, when people know and people start pointing and they're looking for a face, you have to give them a face before they find you. So it's like, here, give them Soros, you know, and that's the guy we'll blame everything on. Meanwhile, they get to sit back and chill. But you know, Soros is stupid paid, so you know, it's like, all right, I volunteer for this position. But when it comes to like real money, you know, Soros, I think he's a low ball player.
Yeah. A question for you too. Do you like cake?
Cake,
Yes.
like ass,
No.
like
What?
Food cake.
like big booties. I like girls with big booties, nice
Okay.
asses, small asses, big asses. I love cake.
For editing purposes on this video, let's start again. Anyone in the comment section, do you like any type of cake that's been discussed?
No, I don't like cake, man. I don't like cake.
Okay.
I had some caramel cheesecake the other day, which was good. But I'm not gonna be like, yo, I want some cake. Nah, that's not my thing. I think that's pretty homo.
Plus, cheesecake is more of a pie anyway. I mean, you can't compare cheesecake to a birthday cake. That's like comparing $100 bill to a Ferrari. Like, come on.
Yeah.
I think no man should want cake. That's like, it feels like a female thing, and this is my toxic masculinity kicking in here. My inner patriarchy. It's just like, you're a man. We don't eat cake. Cake is too soft for a man to eat.
Okay. All right. Moving along to our final story. All right. The Supreme Court rules for a Colorado baker in a same-sex wedding case. This story started in 2012 when a messing up the overlays. This story started in 2012 when a gay couple went shopping for a wedding cake. The owner said that he could not do that because of his religious beliefs. The legal battle began. Remember, this is 2012, I said. A quick recap on the First Amendment. It guarantees freedom concerning religion, expression, assembly, and the right to petition. The fines were upheld in a similar case in Oregon with another bakery refusing to sell the cake to a gay couple. But in Colorado, the fines were not. And this is a victory for religious liberty. I want to ask you two: do people have the right to the fruits of one's labor?
Yes.
No. Simply put, the moment you start making me give my work, give my labor, give my services to someone else, regardless of whether I want to or not, you're talking going right back to the 1800s. And this entire country was built on the idea that if you don't want to associate yourself with a person, a group, or the opposite, if you want to associate yourself with a person or a group, you have the right to do so, and that right shall not be infringed, regardless of the circumstance. And I'm not saying I agree with it. I am vehemently against it. But if there was a guy next door to me that had a swastika tattooed on his forehead and was parading around in Nazi uniforms, I would not have a right to go over there and shoot him, just because that's how this country is built on. Now, if he appeared to be a danger, that's when you start reporting and that kind of thing. And it goes the exact same to business. If my religion dictates that I don't serve people with a particular view or particular lifestyle, such as a gay couple who's getting married, the law has no place saying what my business can and cannot do. They're not there to regulate who I serve, only how I serve them.
Yeah. And this is a problem that the free market can fix, and we don't even need government intervention. If people are so offended that this bakery will not serve a gay couple a cake, then they can voice their opinion with their wallet. Stop going there. The more people that stop going there, then that bakery won't even exist to be, or they'll change their policy to want to attract the community to come in and buy the cakes.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think that especially when it comes to religion, the Bible's against homosexuality, which is kind of funny when, you have black people who are like mad Christian, but then like pro LGBT. And I'm like, yeah, your Bible says that, whatever. Anyway, think about it like this. You're raised a certain way your whole life, and homosexuality is almost evil to you, right? It's like an abomination. And then now you're forced to create this cake with two men or two women or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You could actually get anxiety. Like, I'm trying to put myself in a particular person's shoes. And I'm like, well, what if that, like, I'm making a cake and my hand is shaking and I'm just like, look at this shit. Look at this. I can't, this is a sin. God wouldn't want this. Like, you could have a panic attack, So I don't think that we should force people to go against their religious beliefs. And look at it like this, right? We talk all this, Islamophobia. Man, they drop gay people on their head off buildings in Saudi Arabia, and some of these other Arab countries. But nobody says anything. The same SJWs who are talking about refugee crisis and affirming the lives of POC and Islamophobia, if they went over there, they'd get Islamophobia, because that gay stuff does not cut it.
No.
I mean, and even in a broader aspect, very, very close friend of mine out here in Vegas, he is Jewish and his family is Jewish, and they're good people. One of the Jewish traditions, they don't eat pork. They do not consume pig. Well, when I have him over, if I'm cooking in the kitchen, he offers to help, but I don't make him help me cut up the pig or cook the hot dogs, because that's against his religion, and I would not ask him to do that. If I did ask him to do that, he would say no. I wouldn't be offended. I wouldn't be upset, even if he'd offered to help, because that's his right to say no. That's his right to not go against his religion, even in a private setting. And on a business, it's even more important, because that's your public face. That is your values and your morals being upheld, or showing that you actually don't care about your own morals and your own values. So just a little food for thought there.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I agree with that. I just feel like you want the cake, like that's the only baker in town. Like, where do you live? That's the only baker in town. Like, right. Could have ordered the cake online, if anything. It's just like, no, I want you to make my cake. You, but I don't like you. So what? Make my cake. It's just like, but I don't like you. What if I like put razor blades in your cake, like the Beagle Boys and DuckTales?
Yeah.
Is that what you want? Because I could do that.
That's a hell of a throwback, man. Damn, I missed that show.
I like
It's
it.
back on TV now.
Yeah, but it's bootleg as hell.
Yeah, I'm scared to watch it for the exact same reason I don't want to watch the new Teen Titans stuff.
But it has David Tennant as the voice of Scrooge McDuck.
It's got SJW stuff all up in it. They not
Really?
even-
Oh, I didn't see it.
I caught it.
That doesn't surprise me.
I got kids, and it's just like, you know, entertainment used to be great when you could say whatever you want, but nowadays it's just like, now they're just trying to put all this awareness into the cartoons. Just like, yo, can we just have fun and like, you know what I mean? Just like whatever. Like Beagle Boys had guns. Like right now, what do the Beagle Boys have? Like a water gun? It's just like, come on.
I miss the days that have been long past where we had Bugs Bunny and Looney Tunes, where they actually designed the shows to be watchable for your kids, but have jokes and gems and other stuff for the adults who are watching with their kids. Stuff that the kids would not get. Like you look at Ren and Stimpy today, and you're like, oh my god, I watched this when I was 8. How did I not see this? But the adults that were watching it with you were laughing their asses off. Like,
Yeah.
But I wish we'd go back to that with cartoons.
Yeah, I know. Cartoons actually were for adults, but like you said, they started making them so they could, you know, keep the attention of both audiences.
Yeah. Remember Tom and Jerry and early Looney Tunes, and they were racist as hell.
Oh yeah,
and they really pushed the envelope. But
oh yeah,
there was no censor. That's how we should be. If people don't want to watch a show because it offends them, do what they used to do back in the day. Change the channel.
yeah.
Stop. It's the same thing when it comes to listening to people that are conservatives or have a different viewpoint from you. If nobody wants to hear what I have to say, or they're offended, you don't have to keep listening to me. Leave me alone. I leave you alone. And
you know what we need right now? We need to bring back Married with Children.
My childhood.
Yep.
Married with Children right now would make liberals lose their shit every episode. This is so wrong. He's a misogynist.
But Hotep, we grew up on that. All the children from that time, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of us are liberal now. So what happened? They grew up on conservative-ish shows, Roseanne, Home Improvement, Married with Children. But why did they change? Is it college?
Yes, yeah, it's a good point. Hell yeah, it's college. College is a liberal indoctrination center. So that definitely plays a part.
California is the hub.
But
As a parent,
huh?
As a parent, you could probably understand this. Little kids don't care about this kind of stuff. They just want to do what they want to do and have fun and enjoy their life, which is how we're supposed to be as adults. But then somehow we get tainted growing up when we're a teenager, and then we're terrible, terrible people.
Well,
Why can't we be like that?
Well, here's the thing: when you become an adult, you don't have time to protest and march and all that shit. The only people that got time are like single kids. So even when you look at the black movement back in the 50s and 60s, a lot of those people were all kids. You know, college students. You know, older high school students. It was a very young movement. Black Panther Party was a very young movement. I mean, there's only people that got time to do that stuff. But I think these people are manipulated with media and dollars. And I think their heart is in the right place. Their mind is just easily manipulated.
Yep. I seen Tom Arnold on the Michael Knowles show today. Have you ever watched Michael Knowles Hotel?
I've been on his show before.
Oh, that's right. Tom Arnold was there today, and Michael couldn't even have a great discussion with him. They just kept arguing back and forth, and Michael was very calm, trying to be open-minded, listen, and then give his rebuttal, but he couldn't. And this reminds me of what Ben Shapiro's famous for. Facts don't care about your feelings. Tom was doing a classic liberal move, just going by feelings.
Yeah.
And I hope he feels good when he goes home at the end of the day, because he looked like a terrible person on that show, and Michael came out as with the ideological win.
Yeah, Michael's a very level-headed guy. He's very intelligent. He's not going to get into an emotional battle with you. I will, but
I mean, but even then, there's a huge difference between an argument and a difference of an opinion in a conversation about those. The same Jewish friend that I have is a liberal, and we get along famously. We disagree on a lot of different things, but when stuff like this happens in the news, we just talk about it. And sometimes, most of the time, we don't come to a firm agreement one way or the other. We're both extremely stubborn people, but a lot of the times it does open us up to a new viewpoint about how people could see the same reality in a very different light. And same thing with Michael Lowe's Ben Shapiro, speak softly, carry a big stick.
yeah.
Their stick is all of those facts, those statistics, the analytical data, the research, and the time to sound and present yourself as an intellectual instead of just a gibbering mess of emotion and screaming and crying and tears. And that's the break point.
Yeah. You know, the thing is, people will do what they're rewarded for. So in these times, you know, like the fuck Trump statement, and everybody gets up and claps. So you know, subconsciously you're like, oh wow, like you get an award for saying fuck Trump. So it's just like now everybody's going to follow suit. You know, that's what happened with the whole Black Lives Matter thing. You know, you got a girl, she climbed some pole and now she's a hero. You know, and you got people who, it's basically like narcissism almost, where you know, they're just like seeking attention, so they'll play dead in a highway because they want to go viral on social media. You know, it's really about the ego these days. So, but again, it just comes back to the point that we're creating a reward system based upon the wrong things.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, as long as you follow this, we'll reward you. If you don't, we'll blackball you. So everybody's kind of like, well, this is the status quo now, so that's what we're going to follow.
What if this was Obama and people are saying F Obama? The media would have an outrage over this. And so in Hollywood, the liberals will go nuts.
I've heard
a very double standard.
I've heard that argument before, but people were saying fuck Obama. You know what I'm saying? It was Obama. Obama got his share. He didn't get it like Trump. Don't get me wrong. Like Trump's getting it worse in his first year or so than Obama did in all 8 years. But Obama did get his fair share of, you know, attacks. I think all the presidents get attacked. You know, nobody's really special. I think Trump is a special case. I've never seen a president so hated like Trump. Like, there's no comparison.
Even before he was elected.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like this in my life, which is why I'm like, nah, I'm definitely got to be on the conservative side, because I'm not about to be on the wrong side of history.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, actually, what you just said kind of points out today's polarization. You're right. Depending on what side of the political aisle you're on now and your ideals, you're about to be on a winning or a losing side. And that's going to have effects on you and your development for years to come. And it's a sad truth, but unfortunately, when you've got an extremely powerful and extremely public group of people like CNN and other news stations go up and applaud people for the polarization and make it even more mainstream to become more and more and more extreme, that's kind of the way you have to look at it these days. Is unfortunately there's going to be a winner and a loser, and up until now it's never been viewed like that. So
yeah. That's why we gotta win, man.
yeah.
I don't even view it as winning or losing. I view it as right and wrong. Right now, when I moved from being a liberal to conservative, I noticed there was something wrong out there. And the demonization, everybody's a racist, homophobe, or whatever, just for having a different opinion, and the hatred towards Trump. I knew there was something wrong in the culture, and I moved towards this because it felt right. I don't even care about the winning and losing part. In the end, we just have to do what's right.
Oh, I care about winning. if we don't win, you're gonna wake up in the morning with a boyfriend laying next to you.
Your state appointed transgender queer boyfriend
Exactly.
who
No
identifies as
socialism.
Cool Ranch Dorito.
You know. So if we'll win, man. I hope you like men. I hope you like chicks with dicks.
All right, Hotep, I want to thank you for coming on this show. We love you, man. Really appreciate it. And I hope you can come back on in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'd love to come back. I'm super sleepy. I ain't get no sleep today, so I'm like not myself right now. So I apologize. But anytime you want to have me back, I'm definitely there.
Great.
It's all good. It has been an absolute pleasure, man. I really appreciate you coming on. Especially this is our second episode, so
Yeah.
having a person like you on the show is just inspiring. That we're actually going to be able to get our message out there.
Yeah.
So, and yes,
Yeah,
I would definitely love to have you back on the show sometime, man.
yeah, I always said like a lot of people they get to a certain status, and like Jay-Z and Beyonce, for example, right? Like, what are the media outlets that they speak to? And what are the media outlets that they give their exclusiveness to? And it's always like the top media. And I'm like, do you realize that if you gave the exclusive to like some independent media, you could empower independent media, but you choose to go and speak to Barbara Walters or somebody else who already has a platform built. And I understand it's to get your sales. And it's like, fine, do those. Like, I'll be on InfoWars tomorrow, right? But I don't want to be the guy that goes, oh, you only have 13 subscribers and it's your second episode. Call me back when you hit 100 subscribers. I don't want to be that guy that's kind of corny. At the end of the day, it's the internet. This stuff's still going to get out there. So let's just work together and share it.
That's beautiful, man. Really appreciate it.
Word up.
All right. Thank you all for listening. Hopefully y'all learned something. It was very nice to hear Hotep's perspective on life, politics, and cakes.
Have a good day to all of you. Stay safe, stay American, and Hotep Jesus bless America.
Give us a Hotep before you leave, Hotep.
Yeah, what?
Give us a Hotep like you do in your live streams before you leave.
How do I do it in my live streams?
Go, Hotep.
Oh, nah, that's the song by Royce the 5'9". Hotep, 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 Hotep.
Oh.
That's a song by Royce the 5'9". He used to be signed to Eminem. But now, Hotep to the people. Make sure y'all get my book at booksbybrian.com. Brian spelled with a Y, because why not?
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Peace.